Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're continuing our look at the 1943 Batman serial, and joining me for that continuing look is Mr. Jim Beard, author, editor, all-around collaborator for Gotham City 14 Miles, and the upcoming look at the first season of Batman, but he's also now a podcaster. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
I think I mangled that introduction pretty badly, but I'll fix it in the edit.
It sounded okay. Yeah. Yes, you can fix it in the edit. That's great. Thanks for having me back. I'm really excited to talk about this serial because it's, like I said last time, it's something that I haven't really, it hasn't been looming large on my radar, and it's really interesting to delve into it.
And I'm, thanks to you, I'm learning things about this one that actually influenced the comic book and not was influenced by the comic book, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a back and forth kind of thing. You know, we're only 4 years into the existence of Batman when this serial comes out. And like I said last time, it really showed that his popularity was big in just a very short time.
Right.
But in many ways, the universe is still really sort of being built at this time, and elements are kind of flying back and forth. Some things appear for the first time in this serial and were adapted for the comic book.
Yeah. And you should take a listen to our first episode to find out what those elements are still and will always be up on the website and on the feed. So
yes, because there will be spoilers in this one for chapter 1, so you need to go back and listen to that.
Right, exactly. Now, before we get into it, I would like to take a moment to take a look at one of the actors, the main actors who appears in this serial. Last time we took a look at Batman. This time we're going to take a look at Robin, Dick Grayson, played by Douglas Croft. Now, here's the thing. I made the mistake the last time I said he was 17. He was 16 when he took on the role. So he's close. Come on, you got to give it. This is the closest we're ever going to get to anybody playing the role of Robin at that age, because I mean, what was it? Chris O'Donnell in the movies, and of course Burt Ward in the TV show.
Yeah, you make a good point, and and I was kind of criticizing that he seems like he's 21. Now, Burt Ward did a fantastic job, as he was 20, 21 when they filmed the first episode of Batman, and he's acting like he's 15. Right. If my math is correct, he was acting like he was about 15. Right. But it was believable. You know, you could almost believe that. Douglas Croft, not so much.
See, and that's so interesting you say that, too, because one of the things he was known for was trying to pass himself off as younger. When he was 15, he claimed he was 11.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Does anywhere say anything at all about his hair? We said last time that we could have a whole episode of this podcast just about Douglas Croft's hair.
Oh, he's Douglas Brady, the long-lost brother.
Yeah, show me pictures of kids in 1943 who had hair like that, and I will take it all back.
Now, here's the thing, though. Croft had, you say wasn't very impressive with his line deliveries, but he actually had a more prestigious career compared to Lewis Wilson. He played a young Lou Gehrig in Pride of the Yankees and a young George M. Cohen in Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Oh, I am just reading. As this is happening in real time, folks, that's a wig.
Oh, why put a wig on him?
Now, this is Wikipedia, so we take this all with a grain of salt. Right. But it says the producers made one change to the character, meaning that of the character of Robin, and that was to give Croft a wig of untamed curly hair. Wow.
Because all the girls would go crazy.
That supposedly it was said in a book called The Batman Filmography from McFarland and Company in 2013. So I will have to seek that out.
Yeah.
And, obviously, they must have thought that made him look, younger.
Right.
It just made him look weird.
See, now I want to go find some other images of him and see him with his regular hair and what was the thinking that. And I got to admit, there are times in the comic book, in the cartoons, that Bruce and Dick kind of look more like brothers. Like they actually have a similar facial feature. And maybe the thinking was that Croft looked a little too like Wilson.
He's a tall, looks tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a 1943 thing, maybe. Jeez.
I don't know.
But you're right. He is still the youngest person to play Robin.
Right. And the oldest?
I'm assuming it's Chris O'Donnell, right?
I got to check that to see, because one could say Casey Kasem at 33.
Oh. Oh, on film. Oh. Yeah, but that's... Yeah, you're right there.
Sadly, Croft died at a young age. He was 37 from alcoholism and liver disease.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Very sad. That bothered me when I saw that, because I was like, okay, he had some cool roles, and then you look and you're like, whoa, 37.
If I'm not mistaken, the second Robin in the 1949 serial, the actor is still alive, or was until very recently.
Oh,
I think that we'll have to, obviously, when we get to that point, but
right.
That would be very interesting. The second Robin still alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess by 1949 you weren't going to get Croft. If you're already saying he's not pulling off 15 when he was 16, I'm imagining, what is that, 6 years later he's 22.
Yeah.
Oh, sad.
And it's interesting, they just like Burt Ward, which is a stage name, Douglas Croft, he's actually Douglas Wheatcroft.
Yes.
Yeah. So I could see where he'd want to shorten that.
Right. Now, the episode we're going to be talking about today is called The Bat's Cave.
Prince Daka, sinister Japanese underground agent, has conspired to steal a cache of powerful radium. But Batman and Robin crash into whirlwind action.
And as I mentioned last time, according to IMDb, the whole series was released July 16th, 1943. We know these were weekly serials, so we're going to assume this was July 23rd, 1943.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. We left off with Batman falling to his death from a tall building, but he manages to land on a painter's scaffolding and climbs back up to the roof.
Now, that's worthy of the 66 show.
Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me of the porpoise that just happened to be coming along and saved Batman and Robin's life. That was worthy of the show.
Well, it's like Batman, the Catwoman episode when Batman had the nets put out after, and it saved them from falling when her men tossed him and Robin out the building. Right.
Yeah. In the serial, I mean, it's happenstance. If that wasn't there, then Batman would be a pulp on the sidewalk, along with the zombie. Dr. Daka may jump off.
Right. Yeah.
Nice work. You all right?
Sure. Some fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, grab that gun. Go ahead. Come along, fella. You're going with us to the Bat's Cave.
I got to stop saying Batcave. It's not the Batcave.
Yeah. In Lewis Wilson's, fine Boston accent, we'll take you back to my Bat's Cave.
Yeah, that Boston accent becomes very pronounced when they're in the cave.
Yes, it's very, very much. You almost want Batman to be more silent than, the strong silent type in this. It's an interesting scene.
Yeah. Well, what's even more interesting is the whole thing in the Bat's Cave, because, they got the bats flying around and, they're trying to intimidate him with all that.
Here we are, home sweet home. Make our friend comfortable. Don't you like our little place? We think it's very cozy.
What were those?
Just some of my bats. Hope they didn't disturb you, but you see it's nearing their feeding time.
You don't mind being left here alone with him, do you?
I'm sure he won't.
Wait a minute. Don't leave me here alone. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything I know.
Where were you going with that radium?
To the house with the open door. That's a fluff joint.
Who hired you?
A guy named Smith. A medium-sized fellow with a mustache. Sandy hair and about 40 years old.
The name sounds phony. That description would fit 100 men. You've got to do better than that, my friend.
Oh, yeah. He had a knife scar on his right wrist.
Oh, that's better. What's his racket? What do you want radium for?
I don't know.
You're lying.
No, I'm not. I only do what they tell me to. Don't press that.
Ah, what do you know about this?
That's what was used to open the safe.
You know where it came from?
No.
Well, make yourself comfortable while we're gone.
I've told you everything I know. Don't leave me here alone.
Don't be afraid of my little friends. They don't bite. That is, unless I tell them to.
He leaves the goon behind in the cave as they make their way upstairs and out of the grandfather clock, which you told me in the last episode, this was then adapted into the comics.
Correct. The comics actually had like a kind of a mention that there was something underground, but more like a hangar. And it's just like a mention. So it really took the serial to show an actual cave with equipment and, a headquarters for Batman. Obviously, Kane and Finger, even though they don't seem to be involved in the making of this serial, they obviously watched it, or at least had the scripts to it, and adapted all of that into the comic. One thing that's weird, and this kind of shows to me that the character of Batman is still somewhat being created at this time, is this whole intimidation thing. I mean, he's intimidating the crook, the criminal that they take back, but with the threat of death.
Right.
In a way, that's sort of more the Batman of the first year of the comics before Robin came in than after that, because the strip considerably lightened up after that. So it's an interesting moment and a fascinating one, but it's not exactly the character of Batman. And it's definitely not the character of Batman that would come after this.
Right.
And what kind of an intimidation is talking about the bats and that it's going to be, or it's feeding time, or when they're hungry? It's like, this guy's a criminal and he's afraid of bats eating him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of a threat is that? I would have laughed. It's like, yeah, maybe I might get sick from the guano, Batman, but like, like, what?
Yeah. But here's the weird thing, because then I guess this is part of the lightheartedness you talk about. There's Alfred reading the story that's got him all spooked, and then he's startled because Bruce uses the weapon. Yeah. He's got the gun, and he shoots it to like destroy a vase near Alfred.
Right. Not really having any idea exactly what this gun is capable of. Anything about it, and he fires it off in his own home nearly at his butler. I mean, it literally could have discharged and just fried Alfred completely.
Right.
It's a funny little moment, and that's why it's there. Now, as a pulp magazine fan, I was zeroed in on what Alfred is reading.
Mm-hmm. I had a feeling.
And it's fun because at first you think it's a comic book. And I thought, wow. And it very clearly says detective on the cover. And I thought, oh, that would be so funny if it was Detective Comics that he was reading, ho, 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 and all of that. But you realize that once it flops open more and he's carrying it around, that it's an actual pulp magazine.
Right.
I don't know if it is an actual pulp magazine. It doesn't exactly look like a mock-up of one. And why would they have bothered to that when they could easily have made somebody run down to a newsstand
and get one?
Or those, everybody read those things and everybody carried them around. There was probably guys at the studio who had those rolled up in their back pockets, or in their lunchbox. Seriously. And they might have just said, hey, give me that, and we'll have Alfred reading that.
Right.
What's really funny is what Bruce does is exactly what Alfred is reading in there, about how the vase next to him shatters, or and all of that,
and the clock chiming.
Yes.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Now, they really make Bruce and Dick really climb through that grandfather.
Yes.
It looks like it could barely fit them, but in the comics, it actually was on, hinges, and the whole clock swung away to reveal a doorway. But no, you had to actually climb through it, that tiny little front thing, to get through it. But it is fun that got adapted into the comics.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, though, that we just see this scene, and then we cut to Batman and Robin dropping the captured guy off at the police station, where we get our Captain Arnold scene.
Here he is, Cap, and this note was pinned on him. Linda Page can identify this man for you as an accomplice in the uranium robbery and the hospital murder. Batman. Sometimes I wonder what you two birds would do if you didn't have the Batman to help you out. At least I'm glad you had sense enough to bring him in off the street. Lock him up in my favorite suite. Go on, get out of here and try to find a clue. And wait a minute. If any reporters come nosing around here, don't try to take credit for the catch. I'll do that myself.
Some great lines there. I love the bit where he says, and don't you two take any credit for this. He goes, as they walk off, and he's like, that's what I'm going to do.
That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. I don't know if, I don't think it's any inspiration for Chief O'Hara many years later, but let's hope not.
No. Now,
as bumbling as Chief O'Hara is, I think he's much more lovable character than Captain Arnold.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
We talked last time about how the Commissioner Gordon is missing from this, but Commissioner Gordon shows up in the next serial.
Right. Okay.
And you made a good point about how Gordon wasn't fully realized enough or used enough in the comics by 1943 to use him here. To me, Kane and or Finger should have said, we got a character, use that one, but that shows that they probably weren't that involved in this whole thing, or didn't care, take the money and run, sort of a thing.
Right.
Kane does get he gets his credit at the beginning of these things, created by Bob Kane. It's right there. He gets the credit, and I'm sure he got a paycheck of some sort. Yeah, if I remember correctly, Alfred is non-existent in the next serial, but Commissioner Gordon is there, and it's the opposite here.
That's a shame.
Yeah. And we should call out that Linda Page, Bruce's girlfriend / fiance whatever here, is a comic book character also.
Right. Yeah.
Now, there's a funny little thing here is we get Batman and Robin after they drop off the criminals, and they go, where do they go?
Well, the next time we see them is when they get the call from Linda. But the thing is, and this is what I wanted to talk about, was because we talked about the whole, I brought it up, how I feel like sometimes there are things done without any real explanation. Now, maybe I missed it here, because the next scene is where we cut to Daka, and he's upset, obviously, about the missing weapon. He needs to get it back. His plan, though, is to capture Linda so he can get the weapon back. How does capturing Linda, what does he know of Linda that would have an effect and get him the weapon?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we do know that she works at the hospital where the radium was there, but he has the radium.
Right.
He just doesn't have the gun.
Yeah. And I'm guessing he needs the gun also to replicate, like he never had plans or anything. So it's not like I'll just make a new gun.
Yeah. No, he's not. he's not a very effective villain in some respects. In some he is, but he's the inscrutable, Japanese mastermind kind of a thing. But he's you never really get the sense that the guys around him are scared of him.
Right.
I wish there was a little bit more of that. But for whatever reason, he wants Linda, because he doesn't know that there's any connection between Linda and Batman.
Right.
I'm trying to remember. Geez, I just watched this thing. And does he realize where the gun went? He knows his guys lost the gun, but does he just assumes that Batman has it?
See, that's the thing. I don't remember myself the way he's describing it. It's just, we need to get her, and then he sets up this whole thing where he has one of his men call and pretend to be Uncle Martin to lure her to the Blue Parrot.
Yeah, as he says, Martin's been in the stir for 5 years. She wouldn't know what he sounds like.
Yeah.
So she must have never have gone and visited him, I assume. I think you can do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another one of these wacky sort of things just need to happen.
Right.
Sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, she gets the call. She then calls Bruce and tells him she will go alone. She doesn't want him coming along. He doesn't trust the situation. So he and Dick plan to go to the Blue Parrot as well. It's this restaurant, and they will watch from a distance.
Yeah. This gives Dick some stuff to do.
Yeah, he doesn't do it well.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Yeah, and Bruce is just go and watch her. I told you to watch her. Sort of a thing. Okay, geez, But it gives him a little bit something to do. Linda gets gassed in a phone booth, while Dick is falling down on the job,
right? And
then he goes back, and she's not there, kind of a thing. And so they lose Linda.
And totally. I mean, what's interesting is that, because again, it sounded at first when the guy they captured and kept in the Bat's cave and were interrogating was just saying a lot of nonsense at first. But then they decide to follow up. Yeah, at first. But they decide to follow up on what is then they figure the only clue, because he did mention the House of the Open Door, which is this boarding house, and a man with a scar on his hand.
Yeah, which that sounds, as he's saying it, it sounds like he's making it up. But
right.
He's actually telling the truth. Yeah, with that. I got to tell you, I love this Flophouse stuff.
Looking for a room? No, I'm supposed to meet a guy here, just waiting for him.
And what I love about it is what Bruce and Dick do. They go in disguise.
Yes.
At this point in the comics and around this whole time in the 40s, there were moments, I have to look back. I think it's actually in the very first appearance of Robin.
Paper, mister?
Yeah, I'll take one, son.
Dick disguises himself as a newsboy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tradition in the comics of Dick disguising himself as a newsboy. And it's very fun, because I'll give Lewis Wilson some more credit here.
Bruce.
Yes?
Man with scar on wrist just entered.
Good work, Robin. How about a bid? Got anything on the top floor? You'll have to register. That's the law. All right.
He's good as this sort of bum character. Mm-hmm. Not truly a bum.
Not truly.
A shifty character.
Right.
Room 50, third floor.
And he pulls the cigarette out, and he's got that, hanging out of his mouth. And he actually adopts a different speech pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Why he didn't think to do that as Batman, I'm not really sure. If he could, he actually talks in a lower sort of way when he goes in, and the guy says, what are you doing here? I'm just waiting for a guy. I'm supposed to meet a guy here, however he says that. But I do really enjoy that. And that Bruce and Dick have their, whatever you want to call them, communicators. The radio communicators. Yeah. But again, this is straight out of the comics.
She won't tell us a thing. She'll talk all right, don't worry. Bring that lamp over with you.
Paper, mister?
Let's get back to the car. We've got to work fast. Alfred, as soon as we change the Batman and Robin, pull down the alley and around to your left.
Yes, sir.
lighted window on the 3rd floor is the location of the room I saw Scarlett go into. Get the rope, Dick. Alfred, drive down the alley and turn the corner.
And I love that. And they use them effectively also to communicate. This is all played out very well. And I did really enjoy that because I got a big comic book feeling out of it. Batman fans know that Batman did actually disguise himself at different times as other, characters and sometimes underworld figures, like Matches Malone was one of his prominent disguises. And in a way that's kind of inspired by the Lone Ranger, who often disguised himself as other characters.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we're coming up to a really almost 66 moment with the ropes.
Yes. Yeah.
Come on, quit stalling. Where's that radium gun?
I don't know anything about it, I tell you.
Oh, she's fainted. Get some water.
They do the rope climb.
They do the rope climb.
You almost, for a moment there, think, they're going to do a bat climb up the building. Well, not quite.
Yeah.
But it is a fun little moment there.
It is. And as they make their way up and
we get another window smashing.
We get another window smashing.
Yay, window smashing.
And a bat fight breaks out. I mean, they get into it there.
What else can you call it, Mr. Drew? What a bat fight. Yep. Good, solid punching sound effects.
Yes.
Not weak at all.
What are you doing? The acid bottle smashed. Watch that door. I'll cover the window from upstairs.
You got to get her out of here.
No, not that way. Wouldn't stand a chance. Out the window. Go ahead. I'll follow you.
But again, Batman and Robin, not terribly effective in a fight.
Well, I got to give Robin credit on one. There's one punch he gets in where he knocks a guy into another guy, and the two of them fall out of the room.
Yes.
I did like that.
I did note that, yes.
Yeah.
It makes up for his ineffectuality in the chapter 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Batman doesn't do so well because in the course of his struggling around and stuff, he manages to knock over some chemicals on a shelf, and it fills the room with smoke.
Yes, yeah, and the criminals are smart enough; they know what it is, and they rush out and lock them in the room together and say that that's going to take care of them, boys. Yeah, but and then also this lead guy's smart. He tells the one criminal to go down and watch the outside. Right, because they know they can still get out through the window. Exactly. Yep. And we're coming into. I got to say it again. Another very interesting moment in this serial. Yep. It's all yours. Well, they go, out onto the ledge and then start climbing across this electrical wire because that's what the bat hook was. And I'm calling it the bat hook. It was a hook. There was nothing batty about it, but the hook is attached to the electrical wire. And the hook is attached to the rope. They had climbed up that way, and I guess we never saw that. They climbed across the electrical thing. Now, what's interesting is there's Robin. He's going ahead. He's already climbing down, and he's down on the street. Batman has the knocked out Linda in his arms as he's doing this tightrope act to get to the rope. And I gotta wonder, He's actually got her over his shoulder. That's right. Yes. He's not quite a fireman's carry, but he's got her over his shoulder, and so he decides to do a tightrope act. Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, it is a double wire. It's not a single wire. Right. So our suspension of disbelief, you got to turn it. You got to jump it back a few notches. Okay, it's a double wire, so it's difficult, but it's not as difficult as a single wire. Right. And Batman thinks he can do it. And he does until our man outside. And I forget, did he shoot at the wire, or what did he do to sort of get it to start sparking? He gets a live wire. Yes, that's it. Yeah, he cuts a live wire or gets it from something, and throws it out there so it connects with the wire that Batman is walking on, and it doesn't electrify the entire thing. It's almost like the old-fashioned, lighting the fuse to the dynamite, where it travels, the spark or whatever it is travels along the line, and it's getting closer and closer to Batman and Linda. This thing about carrying her over his shoulder is he's got her over one shoulder, and he's balancing to. That's a lot of weight on one side of you. Like, you know what I mean? He should be leaning way over to the other side. Two things. He should have carried her in his arms, like you were suggesting, or done the fireman's carry,
right,
which loops you around loops a person around your neck more, and you're evening out the weight. But no, right. He has her over one shoulder. And I was thinking, it looks like it, or it might be a dummy that they have. But if you look closely, it looks like it actually is a live person. I don't know if Lewis Wilson did his own stunts in this thing, if it's always those two guys every time in fights and everything else. I'm not really sure.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, but it looks like it's an actual human being that whoever is in the Batman costume has over his shoulder.
Right.
But I'm going to say it. It's a dramatic moment.
Oh, yeah.
It's comic booky silly, but it's a dramatic moment. I love the setup. I would put myself in the mindset of a kid in that theater in 1943. Batman's got this good-looking dame unconscious over his shoulder, and he's walking across this wire. Robin's looking up at him with anticipation and dread, probably, and damn it all, this electrical current is rushing across the wires as he's, not only is he, doing a tightrope act, and now he's got this thing chasing at his heels. So it's a good moment.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's a fine cliffhanger moment.
Yeah, and eventually, the wiring and such sort of gives way. So that the two of them start falling downward.
Yeah, it's another plunge, like in chapter 1.
Right.
Setup is different, but yeah, I mean, it's basically. I think if I was writing it, I would have given it. I would have had it where it was a threat of being electrocuted.
Yes, that's what I was thinking was going to happen.
I don't mind that it's way up above the streets and they're on a wire and all that. But being electrocuted, personally, I'm always afraid of being electrocuted, as a kid, and that would have scared the heck out of me.
Nice. Yeah, that would have. But they went what they went with, and yet still dramatic, and definitely could have seen myself coming back next week to find out what happens.
Oh yeah. I mean, so far, we said it at the end of chapter 1. This is solid serial stuff. Mm-hmm. Solid serial stuff. A little bit more Batman-y, comic booky, super hero-ishy.
Right.
In this one, with the Batcave, and with them using these disguises.
Yep.
A bat fight, and then this dramatic cliffhanger. It ramps it up a little bit more from a common serial, but it is still good 1940s serial stuff.
No, I agree. I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm enjoying this, and I'm looking forward to seeing and this one at least, because Docket doesn't play as big a role in this episode. So of course this one, I would imagine you pointed out that some showings of this in recent times has had the more racial elements edited out. I would imagine this was not touched at all.
I can't imagine, that it would be. Yeah. And in chapter 1, it would most likely have been that line from the narrator. From the narrator, yeah. Yeah. There's more to come, though.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You don't set up a character like that in that time period without playing it up.
This is 1943. We are right in the middle of America's involvement in the war. Post Pearl Harbor. So yes, we are in full blown. The Japanese are inhuman devils mode here.
Right. Yeah.
And the fear that they were infiltrating somehow, that they were underground, they were under our very feet, undermining, everything. And they used to worry about that same thing with the Germans, with the Nazis, that the Bunds, here in the United States were going to undermine things. And so you have this same fear being played out in this.
Right. Yeah. That's it for this episode of the Batcave podcast.
That's it? Wasn't it enough?
Wasn't it enough? We talk longer than the actual episode.
And I'm having a ball.
Well, we've got a lot more to come, and we're going to be covering the rest of the 43 and the 49 series here on the Batcave podcast.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, folks, make sure you stay tuned again as we're continuing our look at some of the things affected by Batman 66 in the 70s, as Robert Long and I talk about the movies that were inspired or are direct ripoffs of Batman 66.
Hey, may I also suggest that you guys take a look at that little kids one that just came out?
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Beautiful piece. Yep.
Yeah. I was going to suggest to you that you and me, might consider looking at this recent project. There's somebody tried to make a Batman serial, a 1940s Batman serial.
I saw that.
And I started watching it, and I'm sorry to say it is abominable. It's horrid. So
that's why you were saying you were going to suggest it, and then you watched it and said no.
I couldn't get past the first few minutes. It's just bad.
Okay.
And it makes almost no attempt of filming it to look like a 1940s serial.
Right.
And literally it broke the illusion almost immediately. I think the first shot.
Wow.
So it's yeah. And they made 4 chapters. I think it was intended to be 12.
Right.
And they made 4, and I don't think anything more was made. And they were trying to. There's a thing at the beginning where they act like it was found. It was never released.
Right.
And then it was recently found. And there's a little bit of oh, okay, this could be fun. They're trying to make it look like, and then it just blows that whole thing immediately.
Right.
By the camera shots. It's modern. It's just not good at all. So I don't want to do it.
Okay.
It's okay just to mention it.
Right.
It's called The Mystery of the Batman or something like that. Yeah. You know what? It makes this 1943 serial look golden.
Oh, well, don't worry. We've got plenty of the 1943 serial to get through here, including our next episode, The Mark of the Zombies.
Ooh, love it.
Yep. So for all you zombie people, you should be watching this and listening to our podcast.
Yes.
So that's going to do it then for this episode. Stay tuned, folks. Until next time, this is John saying, Jim, citizens, thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
See you next time.